It's Brickyard 400 weekend, a crown jewel weekend in NASCAR. We got plenty of great racing this weekend, 4 different races between the top 4 series. Let's analyze it.
On top of the victory podium.
Hello and welcome to Victory Circle. This is a new channel over here hosted by me, Drew Webb, and it's going to be mainly focused on NASCAR race review, race analysis, and just some fun other projects that wouldn't fit on my main channel, which I'll link in the description for you in case you're interested in that. But it's just sort of a fun little project here that hopefully will let me dive into the journalism aspect of things a little bit. I am going to college for journalism, so I would love to gain experience in that side of things, and I'd love to do it sharing my passion for racing, for NASCAR, all 4 of the National Series, the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, Truck Series, and ARCA Menard Series over here. So let's just jump right into this thing. We've got 4 great races this weekend. Of course, I was at Indianapolis last year, and that was a great weekend. I got to see Riley Herbst win the Xfinity race in a fantastic finish with Cole Custer and Eric Almirola, and then I also got to see Kyle Larson win the Brickyard 400, returning to the Brickyard 400 in the oval format, of course, as opposed to the road course format, which has been run the last couple years. So that was really cool to see. I really enjoyed watching all that, and I'm really interested to see how it plays out this year. So let's start by talking about the ARCA race. So starting with ARCA here, they're racing at IRP. It's the Liuna 150 presented by Dutch Boy. I kind of have my stats over here on a screen to the side here to keep me on track. Don't want to get too far off track here. It's 150 laps in this race, and there is a race break at lap 75 of 150 at halfway. Now, there are 35 cars that entered into this race. I'm not aware if one has withdrawn yet, but if one is withdrawn, then of course there'd be no DNQs. But we could see one DNQ in this race. Of course, by the time you're seeing this, qualifying has already happened. You likely know who that is, or if someone has withdrawn. I do not know that at this time. So we'll have to see how that all works out. But in terms of favorites for the race win, you always look at Butterbean, who has 4 wins this year, Brendan Butterbean Queen. He's been fantastic this year, but a little bit disappointing on the short tracks. Some of his wins have come on those intermediate tracks where you really wouldn't expect him to win. Like Daytona Super Speedway even. I mean, he won in the Super Speedway format. He won in the intermediate format multiple times. So that was really interesting to see. I thought he would really specialize the short tracks, but he's really been fast with that Pinnacle Racing Group team all around in that 28. So I'd say watch out for him. Also watch out for Connor Mozak, I should say. He's in a second entry in the 82 car for Pinnacle Racing Group. But I believe those 2 cars for Pinnacle Racing Group spreading out resources a little much. That's why I would slightly favor Brent Cruz for this race. I think Brent Cruz, a fantastic driver, of course Toyota development prospect. I really think that he's got a good shot to win at IRP. Of course, Joe Gibbs Racing in ARCA has not had a lot of success at IRP, but I think Brent Cruz will be able to break through. Such a talented young driver. Now moving on to the Truck Series. The Truck Series is also at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, or IRP for short. It is a 200-lap race, the T-Sport 200, and the stage lengths are 60 laps, 60 laps, and 80 laps, and that makes up the full 200-lap distance of the race. Last year, Ty Majeski actually won that race, which was his first win of the season, and that, of course, launched his sort of late-season championship charge, in which he did end up winning the Truck Series championship last year. So, of course, it's not too late for a new contender to show up, win some races, go on a championship charge. I know Corey Heim is the championship favorite, and for good reason, too. He is having an unbelievably dominant season But I'd watch out. Maybe one of those ThorSport trucks wins tonight, maybe goes on a run, and we see yet another ThorSport Truck Series championship. So Ty Majeski is definitely one to look out for. But I would once again just look at Corey Heim, because Corey Heim it is just unbelievable this year. You know, he's had a lot of races not go his way. I mean, he could have 7, 8 wins at this point this year. I mean, it's really amazing what he's doing there. And I think, you know, he's kind of on a mission after DNQing at Chicago. Of course, that was quite embarrassing. I mean, not really anything he could do about it. He sort of hit the wall, damaged the car. That was sort of an unfortunate scenario. I don't blame him. He's really pushing it, trying hard. But he had to feel a little bit of embarrassment from that. So I really think he's on a mission. He doesn't really have anything to prove, but he still is going to prove that he is very, very talented. And I think he'll win the Truck Series race at IRP. That would be his, 5th, 6th win this year? I mean, that is a lot of wins already, and still plenty of racing to go this year in the Truck Series. So I think Corey Heim will win it, but still, watch out for ThorSport. Watch out for, you know, the other trucks here. I'd say watch out for Daniel Hemrick. Watch out for the Front Row Motorsports trucks. They're always fast. You could see Lane Riggs pop up there and potentially get a win. Of course, Lane Riggs has been awesome this year, just sort of overshadowed by Corey Heim. So watch out for Corey Heim. I think he's going to win it. And let's move on to the Xfinity Series race. Of course, in the Xfinity Series, it's the Pennzoil 250, 250 miles. That's 100 laps. The stage is over here. Let me make sure I'm correct. 30, 30, 40. So that last stage just a little bit longer than the first 2 stages. So that could play interesting strategy-wise. Of course, last year was that amazing finish between Eric Almirola, Riley Herbst, and Cole Custer. Of course, Riley Herbst and Cole Custer have gone Cup Series racing this year, so they're not going to be able to be a part of any crazy finishes that may happen this year. Xfinity is running the same package this year, and that's why I think that Eric Almirola will be the guy to watch that will probably contend for the win and maybe get that win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You know, he was the one driver from last year that was involved in that finish that is still racing in this race this year. And I think he really has really good long-run speed, and that's really going to benefit him. I don't see a lot of cautions coming out in that final stage. I really think it's going to end on a long run. Of course, I could be totally wrong on that. We could have tons of cautions and on a very short run, and this could completely just blow up in my face. But I think Eric Almirola can really handle the charges from behind, and I think he'll win. Although, I will qualify that. I think Kyle Larson is going to have to make some sort of mistake for Eric Almirola to win this race. And I think with Kyle Larson's sort of slump he's on right now, that he is more likely to make a mistake than, usual. But I think Kyle Larson's got, obviously, the raw speed to go out here and win this Xfinity race. And, of course, you can never count out Connor Zilic. I mean, what Connor Zilic is doing this year, and especially recently after he got injured, is unbelievable. He is so fast, and, he's seeing a lot of these tracks for the first time or second time, and it's really unbelievable what he's doing. I mean, he's my age, and he's going out there and just winning these races back to back. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing. So you can never count out Connor Zilic in these races. And then, of course, like I said, Kyle Larson in contention. I could see the other junior motorsports cars also being up there in contention, especially with how good they've been this year. You can never count out Justin Allgaier. Not as much so Sammy Smith. Maybe Sammy Smith will pop up there. And then Carson Kvapil up there is going to be really, really good as well. So that's what I think for the Xfinity race. Lots of good contenders up there. I anticipate a great race. It'll be fun to watch what's going to develop there. But now, on to the main event, the Brickyard 400. Of course, the big event of the weekend being the Brickyard 400 presented by PPG. 160 laps, making up 400 miles at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The stages are going to be 50 laps, 50 laps, 60 laps. So pretty even for the most part. of course, a little bit longer in that final stage could play a factor in strategy. Now, there are so many contenders, and this could really go all over the place. Of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway being, a track position sort of place where, if the caution falls at the right time, you could really have a driver cycle to the front, lead a bunch of laps. It really takes a really good driver and really a little bit of a strategy advantage to make a lot of passes at Indianapolis. And, when I think of drivers who are great with strategy races, I sort of think the more experienced drivers like Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, you think of Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, those sort of drivers, a little bit more experienced, can work with those strategy races and usually find themselves towards the front. But of course, you can't discount the younger drivers, like Ryan Blaney. Of course, he's not very young anymore, but he is on the younger side compared to those veterans I just mentioned. Of course, you got Blaney, you got Chase Elliott, you got Kyle Larson, you got William Byron. All those guys could contend up front. Christopher Bell. I don't want to leave anybody out here. I mean, all the Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing is going to have a great chance to win this. But I really think that this race is going to end up being a Ford race. And, I think that because, I think about fuel mileage. Who gets the best fuel mileage here? Well, I think the Fords get the best fuel mileage. I mean, you saw what Joey Logano was able to do. I mean, even Brad Keselowski last year was able to have a fantastic strategy and sneak up towards the front. And, that's what I think is going to happen again this year. I think Brad Keselowski is going to play the strategy right, and he's going to get a win and sneak into the playoffs this year. I think this is Brad's race, the Brickyard 400. Of course, he has won it before, and I think he can do it again. Of course, RFK Racing has sort of been on an upswing as of late, so I really think they can continue that. And I think all of their cars will be very fast. I think it'll be really interesting to watch these cars work up inside the top 10. I really think all three drivers, of course, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, and Ryan Preece, will have a chance to contend inside the top 10. But I really think Brad Keselowski's experience will lead him towards the front, and he will win the Brickyard 400. Once again, could completely blow up in my face, and I could be completely wrong. But, that's the fun of it. You're sort of guessing at it from what you've seen from previous years, and, you got all that. So, very interesting race to watch. We'll have to see how the strategy plays out. But I really think Brad Keselowski has an advantage here. But you can't count out anybody. It's really a one of the wild card races. And, a lot of people don't talk about it. But, of course, you have had some wild card winners in the past. Of course, I think Paul Menard. I think Ryan Newman in 2013. Casey Kane in 2017. He broke a 100-plus race winning streak. So, the Brickyard 400 really can be sort of a wild card race. So that'll be interesting to watch. Now, I have one more battle to talk about. Let's get to it. Of course, the battle I'm talking about is the in-season tournament battle between Ty Dillon and Ty Gibbs. We finally made it to Indianapolis, the final round of the in-season challenge. And of course, I think that Ty Gibbs, of course, has the equipment advantage. I know that. I mean, Joe Gibbs Racing versus Colleague Racing, it's really not a question. Ty Gibbs is the better equipment. I think Ty Gibbs, of course, is the better driver in all this. But you just can't count out Ty Dillon. I mean, what he's done has been absolutely incredible to get through all four of these rounds. Now, of course, he's had luck, okay? Like Denny Hamlin, he wrecked out. Brad Keselowski, he wrecked out. He did beat Alex Bowman on track, and that was interesting, and then beat John Hunter Nemechek. But, I really think it's going to be tough for him to beat Ty Gibbs because Ty Gibbs is on quite a roll as of late. He's trying to make that final playoff push, and he's doing a really good job. So, it's hard to pick against Ty Gibbs in this battle. But at the same time, I can't pick against Ty Dillon. The Cinderella story, the 32 seed. I know my brain says Ty Gibbs, okay? Like, it should be obvious. But things are wacky and things are wild, and I just think that Ty Dillon will find a way to beat Ty Gibbs, whether that's by Ty Gibbs wrecking or a poor strategy or a great strategy from Ty Dillon and his team, I just think Ty Dillon will find a way to pull it out and win the $1 million, which would be absolutely amazing. So I can't wait to watch that battle and see how it develops. I know some people aren't a fan. I'm a fan of watching these smaller teams. Well, not really smaller teams. Of course, we're talking Joe Gibbs Racing here. But, smaller teams like Colleague Racing and, lesser-known drivers like Ty Dillon battle it out and try and defeat these big teams. And it's been really interesting this year. So I hope that Ty Dillon does it. But at the same time, I think that Ty Gibbs has an advantage here. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. Now, before we go, I do have one final segment here, and it's sort of a fun segment, just last second, to sort of tie into my other channel. So I'll tell you exactly what that is in just a second. Well, I didn't want to leave you all without one fun little segment here. I decided to simulate all 4 of these races in NASCAR Racing 2003, which of course is one of the most popular NASCAR sim racing games. And, I do it on my other channel here. Of course, That DP Guy being the other channel. I'll have a series there, the DPORL Cup Series. And once again, I'll link that channel in the description if you're interested in NR 2003 offline racing. But I decided to simulate, oh my goodness, if I can speak. I decided to simulate all 4 of those races. Of course, I couldn't get the exact paint schemes and all that because, of course, those haven't been painted yet, as this is a future race. But in those 4 races, in the ARCA race, Butterbean ended up winning that race. NR 2003 actually kind of decent with ratings. It can kind of predict pretty well. Of course, it's going to go with the dominant drivers of the season, or a driver who's been pretty good that year because of how the ratings system sort of works. So it picked Butterbean for the ARCA race. For the truck race, Corey Heim dominated. I mean, my goodness, I simulated that, and it wasn't even close the whole race. In fact, he came close to lapping the field in that simulation. So I agree. Good pick, NR 2003. For the Xfinity race, who won the Xfinity race? I can't remember what it picked. Oh, it picked Sam Mayer, which actually I thought was a really interesting pick. And, definitely a dark horse pick for the actual Xfinity race. I think Sam Mayer could have an interesting chance here. Of course, Haas factory team, of course, being Stewart Haas Racing last year in the Xfinity Series. They got 2 of those cars into that final battle at the end. So maybe Sam Mayer will have a chance to be up there and compete. And then the Cup race that I simulated, the Brickyard 400 on NR 2003, ended up picking Ryan Blaney for the win, which once again I thought was a really solid pick. So good job to NR 2003 on these picks. I'm honestly pretty impressed with that, and I even agree with a couple of them. So that was really interesting to sort of simulate. Of course, I could have simulated it like 100 times and gotten a more accurate picture of what the simulation thinks. But those were the 4 picks there, and I found that really interesting and just wanted to share that with you all. So, we've been through a lot here. We've been through all 4 of the races, kind of analyzed all of that. And, of course, we looked at the in-season challenge, and that's pretty much all I have for this episode. So look forward to more episodes in the future. Of course, I'm going to be reviewing the weekend after it all happens, and we'll see how correct or wrong I was and everything. And then, of course, we'll have more race previews, race reviews, all that in the future, as well as some fun personal projects. So if you like what you saw today, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for some more fun content here. And I can't wait to bring you all on this journey here on Victory Circle. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, everybody.